Golden Promises. The first time Marcus Blackwood saw Sophia Winters, she was standing in front of one of her paintings at a small gallery in downtown Portland, explaining her technique to a disinterested couple who nodded politely before moving on. Marcus, however, couldn't move. The canvas portrayed a storm-tossed lighthouse, waves crashing against rocky shores, ordinary subject matter transformed by extraordinary execution. What captivated him wasn't just the technical skill, but the raw emotion bleeding through every brushstroke. "You've captured something most people spend their lives trying to ignore," Marcus said. Approaching after the couple left, Sophia turned, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "And what's that?" "Beautiful tragedy," he replied. "The lighthouse stands despite everything trying to destroy it. But there's this resignation in the way you've painted it, like it knows the sea will win eventually." Her hazel eyes widened slightly. "Most people just say they like the colors." That night they talked until the gallery closed, then at a nearby cafe until dawn threatened the horizon. Marcus learned that Sophia had fought through a childhood marred by loss. Parents killed in a car accident when she was 12, shuffled between disinterested relatives until she aged out of the system. Art had been her only constant, her sanctuary. Marcus shared his own journey, from coding in his college dorm room to founding Black Tech, now valued at $8 billion. What he didn't share was how empty success felt, how each achievement left him hungry for something money couldn't buy. "I should go," Sophia said finally, glancing at her watch. "I have a class to teach in 3 hours." "I'd like to see you again," Marcus said. He wasn't accustomed to uncertainty, to the flutter of nervousness he felt around her. She studied him for a long moment. "I don't think I'm what you're looking for." "You don't know what I'm looking for. I'm familiar with men like you, Marcus. You collect beautiful broken things, fix them up, then lose interest when they're no longer a project." The accusation stung, mostly because he recognized the pattern from his past relationships. "That's not what this is. Then what is it?" "I don't know yet," he answered honestly. "But I'd like to find out." Their relationship evolved gradually over the following months. Marcus discovered Sophia's quiet strength, her resilience, and the way she saw beauty in ordinary moments. She discovered his unexpected gentleness, his passion for solving problems, and his fundamental loneliness despite being surrounded by people. On a balcony overlooking the Pacific 6 months later, Sophia confessed her deepest fear, that happiness was always temporary, that pain was life's only guarantee. "I can't lose anyone else," she whispered as the sun dipped below the horizon. "It would break me." Marcus took her hands in his. "I promise you, Sophia, I will never let anything hurt you. Not while I'm alive." "You can't promise that," she said, shaking her head. "Pain finds a way." "Watch me," he said with the confidence of someone who had bent the world to his will before. By their 1-year anniversary, Marcus had created a cocoon of comfort around Sophia. Her artwork now hung in prestigious galleries, thanks to introductions he'd made. Her studio occupied the top floor of his downtown penthouse, flooded with natural light. Financial worries had evaporated, though she insisted on continuing to teach her community art classes. "You've given me everything," she told him one evening as they lay intertwined. "Sometimes I wonder what I give you in return." Marcus traced the curve of her cheek. "You've shown me what matters. Before you I had success but no purpose, and now my purpose is making sure you never feel pain again," he said. "Physical, emotional, any of it. I never break my promises, Sophia." She kissed him then, but something flickered behind her eyes, a shadow of doubt that Marcus chose to ignore. He was determined to create a perfect life for her, to shield her from every possible hurt. What he couldn't see was that in his quest to protect her, he was crafting the very cage that would eventually suffocate them both. Fracture lines. The invitation arrived on heavy cardstock, embossed with the logo of the Westbrook International Art Exhibition, one of the most prestigious showcases in the country. Sophia's hands trembled as she read it 3 times to be certain there was no mistake. "They want to feature my Weathered Souls series," she said breathlessly when Marcus returned from his office. "The entire collection, Marcus. Not just one piece." Marcus swept her into his arms, spinning her around their spacious living room. "Of course they do. Your work deserves to be seen by everyone." It says they're expecting pieces that challenge conventional aesthetics and provoke meaningful discourse. Sophia continued, her eyes bright with excitement. I've been playing with some new techniques, darker themes than my usual work. This could be my chance to really push boundaries. For weeks, Sophia disappeared into her studio for hours, sometimes entire days. When Marcus brought her meals, he glimpsed canvases covered in turbulent brushstrokes, violent reds and blacks interspersed with haunting empty spaces. The images were raw, disturbing, beautiful in their honesty. These are intense, Marcus commented carefully. Different from your usual style. They're about trauma, Sophia explained, not looking up from her palette. How it shapes us, stays with us even when we think we've moved past it. She finally met his eyes. I'm drawing from my own experiences. It feels important. Marcus nodded encouragingly, but uneasiness coiled in his stomach. These paintings exposed Sophia's pain in a way that felt dangerously vulnerable. He'd spent 2 years carefully building walls to protect her from the world's cruelty, and now she was deliberately tearing them down. 3 weeks before the exhibition, Marcus received a call from Dominic Rivera, his college roommate who now sat on Westbrook's selection committee. I wanted to give you a heads up, Dominic said. There's been some pushback about Sophia's new direction. Gwendolyn Harlow is calling her work trauma pornography and questioning whether it deserves a showcase. Marcus's grip tightened on his phone. Gwendolyn Harlow was the exhibition's most influential patron, a woman whose opinions could make or break emerging artists. What does that even mean? He demanded. Look, you know how this world works, Dominic sighed. It's political. Harlow has her own protégé she's pushing. I just thought you should know. The committee's meeting tomorrow for final decisions. That night, Marcus watched Sophia work on her final piece, her face peaceful despite the violent imagery taking shape on her canvas. He thought about how devastated she would be if the exhibition rejected her now, after giving her such hope. The next morning, Marcus made a call to Gwendolyn Harlow. As one of the country's wealthiest tech entrepreneurs, he had leverage few others possessed. Black Tech's charitable foundation had been considering several arts initiatives to fund. He made it clear that Harlow's museums would be at the top of that list if the committee recognized Sophia's artistic merit. The exhibition went forward. On opening night, Sophia stood radiant in a midnight blue gown, surrounded by admirers praising her boldness. Marcus watched from across the room, warmed by her happiness. You must be incredibly proud, said a voice beside him. He turned to see Gwendolyn Harlow, elegant in crisp white. Such raw talent. I always knew she was exceptional, Marcus replied carefully. Funny how opinions can change, Harlow said with a thin smile. One day it's trauma pornography, the next it's groundbreaking emotional honesty. The art world is so flexible. Marcus stiffened. What are you implying? Nothing at all. Harlow sipped her champagne. Though your foundation's recent interest in my museums is certainly appreciated. Quid pro quo makes the world go round, doesn't it? She drifted away before Marcus could respond. Across the room, Sophia caught his eye and beamed, gesturing him over to meet the critics praising her work. The fracture appeared 2 weeks later, when Sophia was having lunch with a fellow artist who had attended the exhibition. I heard the strangest rumor, Renata told her. Apparently Gwendolyn Harlow initially hated your series, was actively campaigning against it, until Marcus had a private conversation with her. Sophia set down her fork. That can't be right. The committee selected my work on merit. Of course they did, Renata backpedaled. I'm sure it's just gallery gossip. But the seed of doubt had been planted. That evening, Sophia confronted Marcus directly. Did you interfere with the exhibition selection? Marcus hesitated a moment too long. I made sure you got a fair evaluation. What does that mean exactly? Her voice was dangerously quiet. Harlow was biased against you for personal reasons. I simply neutralized that bias. By doing what? Threatening her? Bribing her? I offered arts funding to her museums, Marcus admitted. It was going to happen anyway, I just accelerated the timeline. Sophia's face drained of color. So my success isn't real. It's just another thing you bought. That's not fair, Marcus protested. Your work is extraordinary. I just removed an obstacle. An obstacle I needed to face. Sophia's voice rose. Don't you understand? Those paintings were about confronting pain, not avoiding it. About growing stronger through challenges. And you just... What? Decided I was too fragile to handle rejection. I promised I wouldn't let anything hurt you, Marcus said stubbornly. And you think this doesn't hurt? Tears filled her eyes. Finding out my biggest achievement isn't actually mine at all? Marcus reached for her, but Sophia stepped back. For the first time since they'd met, she looked at him with something like distrust. The line between protection and control had blurred, and neither of them knew how to redraw it. I need some space, she said finally, gathering her coat. I'm going to stay at Renata's for a few days. As the door closed behind her, Marcus stood alone in their perfect penthouse, surrounded by Sophia's beautiful, painful art, confronting the first fracture in his golden promise, and wondering if some damage couldn't be undone. Breaking point. The silence in the penthouse was deafening. 3 days after Sophia had walked out, Marcus found himself wandering from room to room like a ghost, trailing his fingers over her abandoned paintbrushes, inhaling the lingering scent of her perfume on the pillows. He'd called and texted, first apologizing, then explaining, finally just asking her to come home. Her responses were brief, non-committal. She needed time to think. When his phone finally rang on the 4th day, Marcus lunged for it. Sophia? No, it's Renata. Her voice was cool. Sophia asked me to call because she's ready to talk, but she'd prefer neutral ground. The cafe on Morrison Street tomorrow at 10. The cafe was half empty when Marcus arrived 15 minutes early. He chose a table in the corner, ordered 2 coffees, and rehearsed what he would say. When Sophia finally walked in, the sight of her hit him physically. Her face was paler, thinner, with shadows beneath her eyes that matched his own. You look terrible, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. So do you. He pushed a coffee toward her. I've missed you. Sophia wrapped her hands around the mug but didn't drink. I've been thinking about us, about what happened, about your promise. I was trying to protect you. I know, she interrupted. And that's the problem, Marcus. You meant well, but you crossed a line. You made a decision for me instead of with me. Marcus leaned forward. The art world is brutal. Harlow would have destroyed your chance because of personal politics, not because your work wasn't exceptional. Maybe. But that should have been my battle to fight. Sophia's eyes held his steadily. I'm not some fragile thing that will shatter at the first rejection. Your paintings are literally about how trauma has shaped you, Marcus countered. You told me yourself how much pain you've experienced, how you're afraid of losing people. I was trying to honor my promise. A promise I never asked you to make. Her voice rose slightly, causing a nearby customer to glance over. Sophia lowered her tone. Marcus, I love that you want to protect me, but there's a difference between supporting someone and controlling their life. That's not fair. I've never controlled you. Really? Her eyebrow arched. What about the gallery owner in Seattle who mysteriously changed his mind about showcasing my earlier works? Or the art professor position I was rejected for because the university suddenly received a massive donation from a competitor? Marcus froze. How did you? Renata has friends everywhere. Once I started asking questions, the pattern became clear. Sophia's hands trembled slightly. You've been filtering my entire career, haven't you? Ensuring I only face challenges you've pre-screened. I wanted to give you the success you deserve, Marcus insisted, feeling the conversation spiraling out of his control. But don't you see? It's not real success if it's engineered. I need to know I can fail, Marcus. I need to know I can hurt and survive it. Why would you want to experience pain if you don't have to? Because pain is part of being alive. Sophia's voice cracked. It's what makes joy meaningful. You can't selectively numb emotions. If you block out the lows, you flatten the highs too. And that's exactly what's been happening to me. My art has become safe, predictable. Marcus sat back, stunned by the accusation. You're saying I've made your life too comfortable? Too happy? I'm saying you've made it artificial. Tears gathered in Sophia's eyes. And in trying to protect me from hurt, you've become the source of the deepest hurt of all, the feeling that my life isn't authentically mine. That's not what I intended, Marcus said softly. I know, but intentions don't change impact. A heavy silence fell between them. Outside, rain began to spatter against the windows, blurring the world beyond. So what now? Marcus finally asked, dreading the answer. Sophia took a deep breath. I've been offered a 6-month residency program in Florence. I was going to turn it down because I didn't want to leave you, but now, I think I need to go. I need to create art without your safety net to discover who I am as an artist, as a person, on my own terms. The words hit Marcus like physical blows. You're leaving me. I'm finding myself, she corrected gently. I'm not ending us, Marcus. I'm asking for space to grow. And if I asked you to stay, if I promised things would be different, would they be? Could you really stand by and watch me struggle, fail, hurt without intervening? Marcus wanted to say yes, to promise he could change overnight, but the words stuck in his throat. The truth was, he didn't know if he could bear to see Sophia in pain when he had the power to prevent it. When would you leave? He asked instead. The program starts in 2 weeks. She reached across the table, touching his hand. Marcus, this isn't about punishing you. It's about finding balance for both of us. You need to understand that protecting someone from every hurt isn't love. It's control. And what if you go to Florence and realize you don't need me at all? The fear that had driven his behavior finally surfaced, raw and naked. What if I go to Florence and come back stronger, more certain of what we could be together? She countered. Rain pounded harder against the windows as they sat in silence, both aware they had reached a breaking point. The perfect bubble Marcus had created was shattered beyond repair. The only question was whether something new, something authentic but inevitably imperfect, could grow from the ruins. I don't know how to love you any other way, Marcus admitted finally, his voice barely audible. Then maybe that's what you need to discover while I'm gone. Sophia stood, gathering her coat. She leaned down and kissed his cheek, her lips cool against his skin. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is let go. Marcus watched her walk out into the rain, the distance between them expanding with each step. His promise lay in fragments around him, broken by the very love that had inspired it. As the cafe door swung shut behind her, he realized that the pain he'd tried so desperately to shield her from had found them both anyway. Crossing boundaries. The first month without Sophia was the hardest. Marcus threw himself into work, expanding black tech into new markets, attending meetings he would have normally delegated. Colleagues commented on his renewed focus, mistaking heartbreak for ambition. At night, he returned to an empty penthouse where Sophia's unfinished canvases stood like ghosts, covered in drop cloths. In Florence, Sophia immersed herself in the residency program. She wrote to Marcus occasionally, brief updates about the city, her work, the other artists. Her messages were friendly but distant, revealing little about her emotions or whether she missed him as desperately as he missed her. 6 weeks after her departure, Marcus received an email containing only a link to a small online gallery. There he found photos of Sophia's new work, a series titled Undoing Protection. The paintings were unlike anything she'd created before, chaotic, visceral explorations of vulnerability. In one particularly haunting piece, a figure stood with arms outstretched, golden chains breaking apart around it. Marcus stared at the images for hours, recognizing himself in the broken chains, understanding the message she was sending. She was breaking free, finding her voice without him. The realization brought both pride and terror. That night he called Dr. Vanessa Torres, a therapist he'd once hired for a corporate wellness program but never personally consulted. I need help, he said simply when she answered. Over the following weeks, Dr. Torres helped Marcus confront uncomfortable truths about himself, how his need to protect Sophia stemmed from his own unresolved fear of loss, how control had become his substitute for vulnerability. You promised to shield her from pain, Dr. Torres observed during one session, but have you considered that maybe what Sophia needed wasn't protection but presence? Not someone to fight her battles, but someone to stand beside her while she fought her own? Marcus had never considered this perspective. I thought I was being strong for her. There's strength in letting someone struggle when they need to, Dr. Torres replied. True support isn't about removing obstacles, it's about believing someone can overcome them. The conversation haunted Marcus. He began to recognize how his fear of inadequacy had manifested as overprotection. For all his wealth and power, he'd been terrified of the one thing money couldn't buy, the certainty that Sophia would stay if given complete freedom. 3 months into their separation, Marcus booked a flight to Florence, then canceled it, then booked it again. Finally, Dr. Torres asked him a simple question that clarified everything. Are you going for her or for you? The honest answer was, for me, and Marcus knew that wasn't enough. Instead of flying to Florence, he sent Sophia a letter, handwritten, vulnerable in a way their digital communications hadn't been. He acknowledged his mistakes, not as apologies, but as recognitions. He didn't ask her to come back. Instead, he shared what he was learning about himself, about love, about the difference between protection and partnership. Sophia's reply came 2 weeks later. A painting. Small enough to ship, it depicted two people standing on opposite shores of a river, both building bridges that had not yet met in the middle. The message was clear. They were both doing necessary work, separately but with the same goal. Meanwhile, in Florence, Sophia faced her own challenges. Without Marcus's invisible safety net, she experienced rejection firsthand when a local gallery declined her newest series. The criticism stung, but she survived it. When a more prestigious venue later accepted the same work, the victory felt entirely her own. She made friends among the other artists, including a charming Italian sculptor named Dante, who made his interest in her clear. The attention was flattering, but it only highlighted what she already knew. Her heart remained with Marcus, complicated as that love might be. One evening, sitting alone on her small balcony overlooking the Arno River, Sophia realized she'd been fighting the wrong battle. She had left to prove she could succeed without Marcus's protection, but success had never been the real issue. The question wasn't whether she could thrive. Independently, she now knew she could, but whether they could build something stronger together than either could create alone. As her residency entered its final month, Sophia began a new painting, her largest yet. She worked through the nights, pouring everything she had learned about herself, about Marcus, about the complex architecture of love into the canvas. When it was finished, she arranged for it to be shipped to Portland with instructions that it shouldn't be opened until she returned. Imperfect harmony there. Portland winter rain pelted against the windows of the gallery where Marcus stood alone, staring at the massive canvas that had arrived from Florence 2 days earlier. Sophia had called to tell him she was coming home, asking him to meet her here rather than at the airport or their penthouse. The painting before him explained why. Titled simply Promises, it depicted two figures standing amidst a storm, not sheltering each other from it, but weathering it together, faces turned toward the rain rather than away from it. The technique was masterful, but it was the emotion in the piece that left Marcus breathless. Raw honesty balanced with profound tenderness. The gallery door opened behind him. He knew it was her without turning, could feel her presence like a change in atmospheric pressure. "You came," Sophia said softly. Marcus turned. She looked different, more confident, with shorter hair and a certainty in her stance that hadn't been there before. Yet her eyes held the same warmth he remembered. "Your work is extraordinary," he said, gesturing to the painting. "You've always been extraordinary." Sophia moved to stand beside him, both facing the canvas. "I painted what I finally understood in Florence. That love isn't a shield. It's choosing to face storms together. To grow together." "I've been learning that too," Marcus admitted, with considerably less artistic talent. A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. "I hear you've been seeing Dr. Torres. Renata's network strikes again," Marcus said with a rueful laugh. "Yes. She's helped me understand that my need to protect you was really fear disguised as strength. And my need for independence was partly fear disguised as courage," Sophia countered. "I was so afraid of being controlled that I almost walked away from the best thing in my life." They stood in silence for a moment, the painting before them embodying the conversation they were having. "I can't promise I won't try to protect you," Marcus said finally. "It's instinctive for me. And I can't promise I won't need space sometimes," Sophia replied. "We're both works in progress." Marcus turned to face her fully. "But I can promise to ask before I act. To trust that you're strong enough to face your own challenges, to stand beside you rather than in front of you. And I can promise to let you in when things get difficult," Sophia said, taking his hand. "To remember that accepting help isn't the same as surrendering autonomy." Outside, the rain intensified, drumming against the roof in a rhythm that seemed to underscore their words. Through the gallery windows, the city lights blurred into watercolor streaks. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Sophia squeezed his hand. "Now we start over. Not with perfect promises, but with perfect honesty." "I've missed you," he said simply. "I've missed you too." She smiled. Florence was beautiful, but it wasn't home. They left the gallery hand in hand, stepping out into the rain without opening the umbrella Marcus had brought. The cold drops hit their faces, uncomfortable but refreshing, real in a way that perfection never could be. As they walked through the gleaming streets, Marcus thought about the promise he'd made years ago on that balcony overlooking the Pacific, to shield Sophia from all pain. It had been an impossible vow, born of love but bound for failure. The true promise worth making was not to prevent hurt, but to ensure she never faced it alone. Not to create a life without storms, but to weather them together, finding beauty even in the darkest clouds. Back at the penthouse, they stood dripping in the entryway, somewhere between strangers and lovers, between their past and whatever future they would build. "I love you," Marcus said, the words carrying new weight after everything they'd learned. Not perfectly, but completely. "I love you too," Sophia replied, reaching up to touch his face, flaws and all. As they came together in a kiss that felt like both reunion and new beginning, Marcus understood that true love wasn't found in keeping impossible promises. It lived in the courage to break them when necessary, to cross lines and boundaries when growth required it, to choose the messy reality of authentic connection over the pristine illusion of perfect protection. Outside, the storm continued, but inside, they had found something weatherworthy, an imperfect harmony strong enough to withstand whatever life brought their way.